served up, guys.
Ah.
All right. We have sleeves. So it's Ruby Amethyst verse. All right. Amber Steel. So,
Amber Steel.
So we got like the de facto most consistent decks up on stream going at it with Joe W and Antonio M. So different. We get to see it's a much different gameplay. We don't generally get to like 20 resources in this particular matchup. Depending on the list for the Amber Steel, I can already see Hades and Carefree Surfers. So this is more of like a mid-range version. We inked a quick Hakuna Matata, which is exactly where that card needs to be.
Yeah. Always in the inkwell, eh?
Always. You're not casting that card.
Yeah, that's true. I rarely actually see that card coming into play. But that is one thing that we mentioned during the last match, and you were just alluding to as well, is Amber Steel, the fact that you can have those variants kind of leaning more towards mid-range or like. And
so many.
Do you have a preference in the direction you like to see
I'm more
this
of
deck?
like a mid-range control player for this deck. This was for a very long period of time my favorite deck in the game. I very much enjoy this. I was on this deck since mid-July before the cards were released. I like the playstyle. Tinkerbell is the best card in the game. You can't convince me otherwise. So yeah.
Now, the first deck that I really started to kind of get to know the game through was it was an Amethyst Steel deck, but it was all about Tinkerbell and trying just being able to really get towards a 6 cost or shift up to get that 4 cost playability when you have the smaller 2 cost teams available.
I like the early Broom. Shuffle that card back in your deck. I believe it's a you may. I don't think you have to do it. So he could have not done it. But hey, he's like, nah, put that back in there.
Yeah, why not? Why not get something thrown on in? But one thing when it comes to Steel in particular, seeing the little Captain Hook thrown down and the bodies that Steel has to offer. We were talking about Big Tank, the giant fairy that can come later on. But a lot of the challenging units that Steel brings to the table seem to have that potency in the early portion of the game to try and just kind of trade out for that removal, you think?
So this is a deck I played a lot of games with. On turn 2 or on my turn 3 going to my opponent's turn 3, we don't swing with characters because we just don't want to give our opponent Rafiki. We want to make our opponent make worse plays, and even that trade right there is really not a trade that I didn't need to have that trade. I could just keep the hook in my hand. I could also, I don't know if this list has the Floodborn hook in particular, but you could at least make your opponent think that you have the Floodborn hook rather than gaining that that niche lore in that moment. But I do like this. So we have Big Tink. We get to see the Big Tink play already. I'm all for this. I mean, we don't have to play this right now, but we're going to because she's awesome. But that also would have been another reason to maybe not swing with Hook there, is that if your opponent decides to lure with Broom instead, then you would have been able to get the 2-for-1 out of it instead of just not, because if you're able to get the 2-for-1 in that position and then take your opponent off friends here, you're in a way better, you're just taking resources away from your opponent.
And I'm just taking a look at Antonio's deck right now. All
right, so we do not have Floodborn hooks.
Correct. Which I always find that interesting when you do run into the Floodborn hook, just because it's one of the earlier shiftable units that can have that heavy impact.
I'm so very excited of the Singleton Crunk.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Crunk advocate.
Oh,
okay?
yeah. Tell me why you're an advocate.
He's a very well-stated character in the game, and there's a lot of downers on vanilla characters in this game. There's a lot of people that don't like vanilla characters.
But there are quite a few coming out in the next
really good, right? And Crunk's one of them. 6/6. He trades he removes Elsa. And he's still on the board. He does a lot of really good card, a really good card advantage for Crunk. So I'm really excited to see that. Even as a 1-up, totally cool. Interesting thing to note in this particular list: no Rockstar Stitch. Rockstar Stitch is arguably the best Amber card in the game. And for me, I was talking to a couple of random players before the event today, and I said, if I was playing Amber, I'd play Rockstar Stitch. Card's really good.
It does feel like that's one of the most recognized cards, I think, especially in recent times of kind of just being this heavy hitter. But it also feels like when you're making the different variants of Amber Steel, it's one of the ones that is the highest potency that goes, not just kind of interact. You know what I mean?
Well, same thing with A Whole New World. So this
this
player does not have A Whole New World or Rockstar Stitch. So we're very much relying on Carefree Surfer as our, obviously and Rapunzel as our draw factors. This one does have a full suite of beasts, which I can totally respect. I think it's another card that you've seen in and out of these decks a bunch. You've seen 0, you've seen 1, you've seen 4. At the end of the day, a 5-cost 2/2 lore that's inkable that also has value, fine for me. And you'll see, honestly, what I expect out of this game. We got an early Hades there. What do you got? Oh, you got back Tinkerbell. Great. I get the. You play this card to get the best card in the game back. Awesome. We're already threatened pretty early here. This is already 3 lore. Our opponent's already down on resources. He had an ink. I think that was a Maui. It was an enchanted. I think it was enchanted Maui. And we just played Be Prepared already on a 3 lore board.
Yeah.
And we still have 4 cards in our hand. So, here's a Tinkerbell. Here's another one. Just go. Lucky for our opponent, he was able to pick up a Magic Mirror, which I think is huge. Because now he can play Mirror and draw. If we find another beast, though, you might see a very quick game here. Because there's just not going to be enough resources to compete with what's going on.
Of course, Joe W. playing the Ruby Amethyst wants to have that power later on and is indexing into controlling the board through early Be Prepared, whereas Antonio is attempting to get as much value out of this Tink and beyond. Because one thing that when you noted there is no whole new world going for Antonio, a lot of that is in response to some of the other cards he's brought through, like the You Have Forgotten Me we already saw in here. A lot of times when someone's playing the You Have Forgotten Me variant, they are not opting into any of the cards that could actually give cards to their opponent that they've been trying to drain their hand so hard.
They're pretty counterproductive.
For anyone that's wondering how to tech their...
Yeah, right now, the You Have Forgotten Me would have been a pretty good play this given turn. I just get to take out... Because the cards left in his hand are top end. So you get to just... you would have been able to take out 2 threats. So he didn't have it. Unfortunate. But now with Mirror in play, it also gets worse. So unless you can find another beast to get Mirror off the table, then that card gets worse anyway. So the Elsa here is just to, attempt to slow him down. Totally cool. But if I have a Stitch here, I feel so good. Because we get to come in, now represent 5 lore and draw 2 cards. I think in this board state, I'm not a huge fan of Krunk because now you just make the second Be Prepared like a slam dunk. And I don't think we needed to do that. But we have Hades, we have Rapunzel, we have ways to draw cards, whatever. It does not look like he had it. Or he still has 7 resources up now. So no, he can still just do it. So he can just gain 3 lore here. Because I don't think he can follow up with anything for singing. He can draw a card. So he could, instead of taking 3 lore, he could just sing and then draw a card with Mirror. Now, for what it's worth, if that was the play line, I would have mirrored first. I would much rather have drawn the card first to see what other things I was going to draw.
Good rule of thumb in general. I feel draw mechanic first.
If you know you're going to draw, you should draw first before you ever do anything else. If you already made the decision that you were going to sing with Elsa, take the card first. You never know what could have come out. It could have been a Maui. It could have given you other decisions, things like that.
Whenever that happens in these scenarios, it makes me think that they're changing their strat through the midpoint of the rounds. Because that awareness of that is there. It just shows some necessary adaptation.
And last round we talked about pacing. Antonio's pacing is fast. So I do wonder if that is playing into it. Hey, this is my pacing. Are you going to match my pacing? And we just saw a game go to a game 1 draw. So.
And Antonio hoping that by not giving into a mirror match won't be leading into draw territory, if you can have anything to say about it. Right now at an inkwell of 6, of course, characters like the 7-cost Stitch will be an option once he builds up a little more.
This deck doesn't really need to go past 7 for much. It doesn't have Lantern, right? So we don't have any of those shenanigans. But realistically, it just gets a 7, and it doesn't really need to go past it. And it can go past it once you get to 7, like if you're able to get the draws off the Stitches and things like that. But what I say is his hand is very impactful. The fear, is really just holding back too much. Your opponent's already played 2 Be Prepareds now, so I would be totally into just getting things in play. All right, you've already done this. I'm not a huge fan of getting rid of Rapunzel there unless I really felt I needed it.
Yeah, Rapunzel's so good.
I mean, she's okay in this matchup when you can utilize it. A lot of the times, the Amethyst Ruby player has the ability to kind of control the tempo, so they can just take away that draw power from you. But again, right now he's working on low resources, and he's paying he has to pay another 4 every turn to draw more cards. He puts Aladdin into play, gets the Pocket Watch, which is great. That's a good trade for him early. But unfortunately, it's also a card that we can't utilize. The one bad thing about Hades is that he has, only has 2 willpower, so you can't ever Rapunzel that card.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super low chance for that.
And to your point about this matchup, Rapunzel really getting that full effect when you're going against decks that are trying to remove through challenging, and when you have multiple attempts to hit a single character on your side. But Joe, the Be Prepared's from prior, does have the Gaston in
Grab
here
Your Swords, that's good.
if needed. But Grab Your Sword, also a fantastic card.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting play there. Again, your opponent's just working on such low resources that you could have probably given him another turn with those cards, and I would have rather have played the Tinkerbell or the Beast and then sung Grab Your Swords next turn, just to get the most out of my resources. Because he really wasn't threatening the game. You don't really need this lore with Hades. You could have just took a turn off and just said, all right, I'll play my Beast. I'll get rid of whatever item I choose. In this situation, it's probably still Mirror. Unless there's 2 mirrors there, I can't see. The glare is very bad in that spot. I'm not sure if it's 2 cauldrons or 2 mirrors. My guess is that it's 2 mirrors. So if it's 2 mirrors, I just would have got rid of the shield.
Oh, it looks like a pocket watch.
Is it 2
mirror?
Cauldrons? Oh, it's a pocket watch. That's right. It's a pocket watch. So I probably still would have get rid of the mirror just because my opponent just has no cards, and that would just get rid of all the card draw potential. And then, like I said, this turn you're just okay, I sing Grab Your Swords. And I still have other resources to play, whereas last turn that didn't happen. We just played Grab Your Swords and passed and then weren't very resource efficient. I definitely would not be rowing Tinkerbell. That's not where I'm at.
There is that removal of that mirror. I imagine that Ruby Amethyst is partly why Antonio has chosen to index into 4 beasts to be able to bring through.
I mean, it's just a good card, in all honesty, and the fact that it's inkable is just a bonus. It's the same. Honestly, it's very comparable to Maui. Maui's just a good card, and at worst, he's inkable. So you're like, okay, whatever.
The very limited item removal that exists right now in Chapter 1 does put a bit more power into Beast.
He's the best card to remove stuff with, so it's much better to pay 5 to get a 2 lore character that has a 4/4 than pay 2 for a break. So.
And now because of the play over the previous couple turns, Joe doesn't have that mirror anymore.
He took mirror, right.
Yeah.
So this is huge.
Ooh, look how pretty.
Yeah, it is. I think he's got a couple of those. So. A couple of those, eh?
Ooh, almost as shiny as the glared card. It's over in the item pool.
The glare card is glared. What is that? What was with that card? Did he just put that? Is that his card in his hand and he just put under that? Is that what happened there?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because now just a single card doesn't have access to that magic mirror to be able to continue drawing so effectively.
Right now, a Carefree Surfer would just be, it would be icing. You would be so far ahead in the game if we had Surfer here.
Yeah, Antonio, 8 lore, card advantage.
That's an interesting play.
Getting some bodies onto the board, tapping both Beast and Hades here. Trying to build up that lore even more. Knows that Joe will try to slow down the game eventually, but I think Antonio's feeling pretty good.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good position. This is a very favorable matchup for this deck in general, and especially after removing the mirror here and just putting your opponent you're drawing a card a turn, you're not able to utilize resources how you're used to. Yeah, we have Cauldron, but it's pretty weak in general at this point. And do we get to 8? So we do have 8 Inkwell. We're not even at 9 ink. So
for quite some time too.
Yeah. So if drawing on Inkables means I can't play Maui yet, and Elsa's fine here. This is just to get back in the game and kind of slow down my opponent a little bit. But when I'm Elsaing 2 1 lore characters,
not.
And we very much have started the Hades train. So there's that.
Ah, yes. Look at all.
So I like the
Beast.
Hades. I love the Hades get back Beast here. Just removes it. I think I would remove Pocket Watch. Pocket Watch is just more off the top anyway, whereas Ursula's Cauldron, it's pretty mediocre at this point. It's not. I would the more impactful card would have been honestly either Shield or Pocket Watch. Couldn't keep forgetting. That's one of my favorite cards, by the way.
Pocket Watch.
White Rabbit's Pocket Watch. I think it's one of the most underrated cards in the game.
it's one of the ones that the name I struggled with the most, because the more words you add, the more synonyms you want to trade out for certain words. But I love it. And I mean, one thing that I really appreciate about Lorcana in general, when looking at some of the design of these cards, like co-designer Ryan Miller has done multiple interviews where he talks about the importance of using story to inform the design. That a lot of times, for him specifically, that would come first, and some of his favorite cards come from that. And Pocket Watch feels like a card that very much leans into the story. The idea of giving something rush and I'm late for a very important date. You just feel like you're in the universe at that point.
It's really, oh man, we could go on a tangent about design.
I know, right?
But it's really fun for Disney to be able to deliver that in a card game world, because you can so easily play into that in so many different design aspects, which I totally respect.
Well, props to Ravensburger. I know they've been working with Disney for a long time, so it gives them build up and making sure that they are true to that universe that has been built up through all of our lives.
Yeah. Like for me, like I'm a low-key Villainous player also, so when Prince John was revealed this week, I was like, oh, I know that guy from Villainous. You know, like one of those, like, I played that guy in Villainous.
And there is an emphasis on a lot of villain archetype characters coming through, actually, when you're talking about reveals. And that's one thing that I'm very excited to look at, is there are clearly ways that you can index when you're a few chapters in, when you have a lot of tools at your disposal to really give an identity to your deck, whether it's villains, princess decks, for instance. Still have some kind of place now, but you expect it to have more potency as that pool gets filled out all the more. Cinderella, for instance, coming through. But alas, another shiny.
We have all the enchantments here. But this is also the key reason why I would have got rid of Pocket Watch there. Like, that just erased the turn. You know? That was a full turn erase. Like, you just got, like, I don't want to say time walked, but in a way, you got time walked because you allowed Pocket Watch to stay. And there's also, there's a very reasonable chance that he had less Pocket Watches in his deck than he did Cauldrons. So I just would have got rid of the Pocket Watch. So we get a Grab Your Search, which is wonderful here.
Yes.
I want Ariel Spectacular. This is the reason why I like this deck. It has a lot of cards that I really like. Ariel Spectacular Singular. A+ card. Love her. Only going to get better. Evergreen ability of finding songs in Singer 5. So good.
Yeah, that's why when you're looking at the ways in which you can draw, there's obviously the, I'm just trying to get draw into my hand. But when you're looking for something specifically and you know what kind of songs you have, being able to pull up the top 4 cards and find a song is a way to kind of index into the specific strategy that you've constructed into your
Baby
deck.
Aladdin, and then now we have to do it? Okay. Okay, so we're really ahead, right? You know, now I do believe that we saw another Be Prepared in Joe's hand, and it just got You Forgotten Me. So this game, for me, if I'm Joe, and I know it takes me a while to win a game, I'm probably conceding right now. I would move to game 2.
Antonio has been attacking Joe's draw, which is a lot of the point of this variant of Amber Steel. The You Have Forgotten Me, making him discard a couple.
He wanted one more card, but we were on the same page.
Yeah, he's all right.
He needed one more card, but just funny.
Antonio taking game number 1 of this best of 3. And as we were saying, when you're looking at the competitive landscape, that's not a surprise. This is a deck that has risen in popularity partially because of its way of answering kind of these more lengthy control decks like Ruby Amethyst, while still having some strength early on against the aggro decks out there.
I like that flavor more anyway.
In chat, we're getting some dranky drinks, some Red Bulls traded out in front of us.
Sponsored by Red Bull.
Do you have a favorite Red Bull flavor? This is not a sponsor. I'm just actually curious.
Yeah, no, like I really do enjoy the strawberry apricot, but I also like watermelon. Like the watermelon's really good, but I don't know. I like the summer flavors a bunch. I'm a Red Bull guy, so it's fine. We can talk about Red Bull forever. But no, seriously. So like this is awesome. I could choose either one of these, and I would drink either one. It's fine. Yeah. Totally delicious.
Red Bull has been a pretty big fixture in my life for
pretty big fixture, really. Okay.
Well, I've had the pleasure with working with them. I'm sure you know all these events, and they're great, very invested in the gaming scene. There's so many flavors. They've also done a lot of kind of game prints on cans. I have some that I've actually kept, and
that's cool.
I wouldn't drink now because they're way expired, but that was the point. I didn't want to drink them because they look so pretty. You said the Red Bull fridge.
Let me just pick up this this Red Bull from like 4 years ago, and then I'll just give it a go. No, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's on a bookshelf, so I would like to think that if someone's in my home and they see a drink on a bookshelf, They know it's probably not the one to drink. Just go get the one in the fridge.
Very fair.
Are these cold, by the way? Ooh.
They're
like
they're fine. I mean, I could drink them.
Yeah. Are you totally against room temperature Red Bull? Or I feel like you can. You can.
I'm a room temperature kind of guy. Like I'm okay with room temperature water.
You're one of those.
Yeah.
Your food too. Soda? Do you not like to microwave?
No, okay. I don't like microwaves, but like toaster ovens, air fryers.
Toaster ovens are the upgraded microwave.
Yeah, they're better.
They are.
But yeah, no. So the we'll get in the game too.
All right.
A very quick win by Antonio here. He is up 1-0 in the matchup, and that's honestly what I expect. It does look like Joe decided to go first, which I think is very important for Joe in this particular matchup. But honestly, I'm the way this deck is tooled and can be played and really focused, and especially if you look, the choices that were made in this deck was like, I'm not going to play a Whole New Worlds, I'm not going to play Rockstars. I'm going to attack Ruby Amethyst on a different layer with my Beast, with my You Were Forgotten Me, and that is exactly what happened in Game 1.
And even some other tools we haven't seen quite as much in Antonio's deck. I don't think we saw any Hans.
He came out very late in the game.
Oh, it was late.
He was like, be prepared it away at one point, but yeah.
The be prepared.
He's not particularly great in this matchup.
Yeah.
He's okay. Like, he's still a 2-lore threat that does.
Great against early aggro when you have the Lilos.
Yeah, no. He's not good in this matchup in particular.
Yeah, this one not so much.
He's very good in like the mirror match. He represents a lot. But all in all, turn 3 Singer here, turn 3 Maleficent. This is Disney Lorcana at its top level of competitive.
Well, and even thinking about top level of competitive, and you were saying that one of the things that you liked about Lorcana was that kind of that barrier to entry is low. You can understand it very on face value, but there's a lot of nuance into the strategy you can bring through. I think when looking at something, even what feels as simple as a Hans card, the fact that it's inkable though adds that additional layer. Yeah. Yes, in another matchup, this is a great card. Yeah. I would never want to ink. I want to poke things off of the board as much as I can. But in this matchup, great. If he comes into my hand, that's something I can feel pretty confident about getting into my inkwell early.
Well, it's similar to Beast. Mm-hmm. Like Beast is at the very end of it. Beast is still a 5-cost 4/4 for 2 with 2 lore. And when it's anything more, it's phenomenal. And that's a lot of these cards in this particular deck. And it's the amount of like actual playable Amber and Steel cards in the game is what creates this deck being so powerful, because when you sit across the table from it, the first couple of turns might look run-of-the-mill, but you have no idea what the end game and what the mid game looks like for any given deck. But right there is the best thing ever. I feel so good about that play. We're able to take Maleficent off the board, and then I get to friends on the other side also, but when I did it, I put a 2 lore 5 willpower character in the game, who I'm okay with this trade.
This feels pretty good. And we're getting to see the Rapunzel in play now. 4-cost inkable, 1/5, 2 lore. Obviously, a lot of her strength comes from her ability Gleam and Glow because of your chance to take away the 3 damage from a unit, but also getting that draw per damage that has been dealt. And
right, like on that last turn, we were able to take 2 damage off of our Ariel and draw 2 cards. And yeah, Maui comes in here, but we drew 2 cards. We don't care.
Yeah. And when pairing with units like that, like Ariel at a 2/3, when you're early enough on and the inkwells are fairly small, that 3 willpower compared to 2 does give some of that stickiness that's difficult for even when you have a rush. If you don't have like a Rafiki or something to be able to take out, then you could be in some trouble. But right now, Antonio, coming off of the win in game number 1, here in game number 2, has a beast down. You're just noting the fact that this is also a threat of a body that you have behind that utility of removing an item from your opposition, items being a very clear portion of the Ruby Amethyst deck. Joe specifically having both Ursula's Cauldrons and Pocket Watches shows that he is indexed heavily into that direction.
Right. So this last play was really, this is a bad play, only because your opponent found Grab Your Sword with Ariel. So he just set himself up for this beast to go, I'm going to exert, I'm going to sing Grab Your Swords, I'm going to remove your entire board from the game, and then I believe there's a You Were Forgotten Me. Oh, no, it was a Kuna Matata. If there was a follow-up You Were Forgotten Me on this turn, this would be the game over, in all honesty. I don't think there's a You Were Forgotten Me, so it's not that. No, there is.
Oh, there's one.
So if we grab your swords this turn, right, we get to play this card for free. We get to remove all of the cards on my opponent's side of the field. I honestly think right now there's 3 cards. Yeah, there it is. This game just got really, really difficult for Joe.
You could see the swiftness
And look,
with
we
which
still
Antonio...
have 5 cards in hand.
Yeah.
And one of them is a Rapunzel, which just gets to draw more cards. But right now, like, he just kept 2 uninkables, and we picked up a Captain Hook, which is cool, just a little bit extra pressure. You know, he has to make a hard choice here. Like, and if he doesn't draw an inkable, he's in a worse spot. He drew Friends, so that's like the best card you could have drawn there,
right.
obviously. That's like A+ card draw. But now our only inkable is Maui.
Yeah.
And we're going to... So this gets the look first. We get the tell, so we can't see those cards. I assume whatever that card is, it's inkable. Whatever card was on top is uninkable, but now he has to make the choice, like, am I going to row my Maui? Which
is so hard when you have characters on Antonio's side that you could clearly get great Maui value
and
from.
Didn't, so he didn't note that. Now, he was just able to keep Ruby Amethyst from inking on a turn, which takes one more turn away from Aladdin, one more turn away from Be Prepared, one more turn away from Maleficence, and you're up. You know, you're up in the game here. You get to gain 3 lore. And obviously, the Maui's going to come in. He's going to remove the beast here. But, you know, that was a huge turn. This is massive now. So now we get to just put this giant Stitch into play and draw 2 more cards. In all honesty, this game is pretty much over.
Yeah.
It's really going to be really difficult to come back from this in this game state.
From that grab your sword point,
yeah,
it felt like Antonio, who was already in a somewhat advantageous position, was able to get such value. I almost wonder if Joe, in the throes of competition, maybe wasn't tracking in that moment about the fact that he saw that drawn from the aerial, and since then has been trying to build the board back up, delaying adding cards into that inkwell. Now finally at 7, though, which is a breaking point, but is it too late?
It might be. I think the lore status is off here. Or no, I guess they missed. I thought he went to 7 last turn. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this Ursula is just... It's like the worst late game threat in this position, because I'm like, okay, yeah, your Ursula represents 3. That's cool, but I have 5 on play and I'm ahead, and your Ursula can only remove my hook. So like I'm totally fine. I don't even need to, like, I could just leave the hook in play, in all honesty. I probably wouldn't, because Be Prepared, you're already threatening Be Prepared enough. The one thing here is, like, I would consider playing Ariel right now, but I wouldn't play any other card. I would let Ariel find me a card and threaten 1 more lore, but I would not put anything more pressure into play, except for maybe the Stitch, just because it's going to draw me cards anyway. But realistically, I think in this board state, I'm really comfortable. I would just play Ariel and pass.
Because you do have to keep that balance, making sure you have threats for post Be Prepared.
Right.
And Antonio, when you have that many cards in your hand, you're not as worried about it.
Right.
But
this is like a real board state where you kind of have to. You're almost forced into here. Like I didn't know that. I don't know if I had to sing it, but I guess if you have a follow up. Okay, the follow-up is mirror draw, so that's fine. Yeah, I didn't see the mirror draw. So this is like better. He's able to stabilize a little bit, but we still have a million cards in hand. We have Hades, we have a Stitch and Rapunzel to redraw and things like that. So we're still pretty good.
Definitely better than before, but we were just talking about that pacing, and have you reached that point of no return on Joe's side? You're not really looking at the lore specifically, the fact that he has 0. It's the fact that Antonio continues to have resources in hand, continues to have the priority with the characters, and annihilating any strat that Joe is able to build up here.
Hades is so good.
It is.
One of my favorite foils. The foil of that card is gorgeous.
Yeah, this is kind of really indexing into that, bringing things back from your discard pile feels like you get to be so much more selective.
It's always
with
the
your
most
draw.
powerful thing ever.
Yeah.
It literally is just like I draw a card, but it's the card I want. It's really powerful.
And now thinking about how much you love Amber Ruby, I can imagine all of the cards that you would like to bring back with Hades.
Every card's a bomb.
Yeah, that's a good combo, and more and more Hades getting built up within this world of Lorcana as well, kind of showing the impact of Floodborn when you have the...
Floodborn's so good.
There's so many things we can go on tangents on.
It's really tough to make this play for Joe last turn, but I think he had to Dragon's Fire Beast because the last thing he wanted to see happen was this Carefree Stitch just be able to draw cards. We got to move the board. I think we're at 10 lore now. Yeah, so we're at 10 lore, and now we're representing, here's 5 more. And it's like, again, we're in that position where it almost feels like be prepared or bust. I think he could get 2/9 Inkwell here, but it would cost him his Aladdin. And that's such a tough decision where, like, it sounds crazy to be prepared, but it's like that's what this Amber Steel deck does. It just forces you to go, you have to have be prepared, or I'm going to threaten 5 or 6 lore every single time. Or it's like you have to settle that I'm going to, and you know, it's a tough play. Like, this is a really tough position, but this is how we got to this point just because of the resources that Antonio was able to build resources the entire game and take them away from his opponent. And now we just have another beast, and it just takes away everything. And then, here's just an aerial. I'll just go find another song. And if I don't, it's not the end of the world. But we like to find songs.
Yeah.
We didn't find a song, but we like to find songs.
That is always a vibe, though, when you do play aerial and you don't actually see a song in the top. You still have to go for it, but you think, kind of law of averages, you do that once in a while.
Especially because this particular list is also playing Hakuna Matata, which is playing the extras. Like, I'm going to play this really bad card that just hopefully reads I get it with aerial and ink it.
Just trying to build up my Inkwell a bit more, which is at 10 for Antonio right now, 8 for Joe, which is why he's finally reached Elsa territory. It's
another indication of like this particular match is like, if Antonio is at 10 ink and Joe is at 8 ink and he's playing the control deck, he's very behind.
Yes. And, I mean, for Antonio, even though there are some changes in the characters that we're seeing come down, we finally see the big tank rolling on through. It does feel a lot of rinse and repeat when you look at the strategy of the game overall. Oh, I have another beast. Where'd all your items go? I have an aerial. Even if I draw into that song or not, still just a 2/3 unit that you're going to have to do something to. And right now, using the Elsa just to swing takes damage back from removing beast out of play. And Elsa, a little
vulnerable.
Yeah, a little worrisome when you can be knocked over with just a stiff breeze.
Yeah, I mean, all right, we'll just play the best card in the game. You can do that too.
Yeah.
just Tink will she'll solve all your problems. So I don't think it's really weird here, but I think this is a position that your opponent has already played, I think, 3 be prepareds. With 4 resources left, I would have slammed Rapunzel on the table. I would have been like, nope, I'm going to threaten the game now. I know my opponent's low on resources. He doesn't have draw power. Like, putting Rapunzel in play right now still gives me 3 lore next turn, which is it's a 3 current clock, which makes, again, like, your opponent is low on resources. They have to find so many answers to even be in the game. And then after they do that, you still have another 10 turns because they can't win,
Yeah.
and you still have so many resources, so.
And you can feel the effect of those resources whittling down a tad when you're looking at the way Joe's playing. For instance, when he did play that last Be Prepared, very hesitant, was putting one card down, another one.
Like last turn we didn't put the Rapunzel, this turn we did, but we missed out on 2 lore.
Yeah.
Like this turn we would have gained 2 more lore if that Rapunzel was just down.
And there's that single Kronk that is in this deck, the
Love
6 cost 6/6.
The right-hand man.
Yeah. Probably has a really tough right hook.
He's
just
a
even
beefy
by the
boy.
positioning in the
he's a beefy boy.
Yeah. What I want to know what his diet plan is. I'm trying to get swole like Kronk, bro.
He puts the work in for sure.
Yep. Should have brought some dumbbells back here. We could do some curls while maybe make a game of the game.
I'm more of a yoga guy. Sorry.
Yoga's good. I vibe with yoga. Do you start your day with yoga?
I generally do. Yeah.
I
try. Let's put it this way. I try my best.
Yeah.
Try my best.
Trying your best is the best strategy.
Right,
That's all you can really hope for in this game that we call life.
This is so good. My opponent's like, oh, I'm just going to banish your guy. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to pay 4, and I'm just going to get another guy back, and I'm going to be okay with this. In this particular play, looking at my hand, I probably I get the looping of Hades, which is like totally respectable, but I also think right now if I had just gotten back Carefree Surfer and slammed that on the table, that would have been pretty good, too.
Yeah, that's true. It does feel like we're seeing an indexing into whenever these loops are discovered, there's a lot of experimentation there and kind of a priority in leaning into that loop as opposed to bringing down another body.
It's definitely like a understanding right now we have, even if we didn't swing this turn, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lore, that's 15. The Surf would have put me to 17. Putting both these players in challenging mode makes Surfer worse. That's an interesting play. I guess that's just a trait utilization of resources. But I would have considered just singing it instead and then following up. It's hard not to play Beast here. It's the same thing. Like, there's a lot of these loops where it's like, oh, I need to get value out of my Beast. But again, your opponent's already played 3 Be Prepareds. So just putting another 2 lore character in play is just like ending the game even faster.
I do feel like right now for Antonio, it is kind of choosing which way are you trying to index into closing out this game? Just questing with everybody? Are you still attempting to control your board? Right now, it looked like because with Amber Steel, you don't have that direct hard removal like Ruby Amethyst does. The focus is on chipping down if you are attempting to clear your opponent's board, but that does mean you slow down your questing ability the more you try and swing into them. So does Antonio just want to try and get to that 17-18 territory where Joe is forced to answer after already using so many Be Prepareds?
Yeah, I think the problem is now is like this turn feels like I have to Hades Carefree because I've run out of like other drawing resources and the cards in my hand aren't spectacular. Again, still very ahead in the game. Still very unlikely to concede this game. But I don't mind pressuring the board this way. We don't get any lore this turn, but we are representing 5 lore there. I would have loved to put 1 more card in play just to be like, you have to answer this. But, no Pocket Watch. We are at 10 Inkwell, so like if we did pick up a Pocket Watch, we could Pocket Watch an Aladdin, which would be a really, really good turn. It doesn't look like that. We just have the Dragon's Fire's Rapunzel's, which feels awful, in all honesty. It's not like something you want to be doing.
And that's what Antonio feels like he's looking for, right? He feels much more comfortable trying to flood the board currently, being that all those Be Prepareds had been previously utilized. If you draw out that Dragonfire just because you are threatening with that 6 lore points away from ending the game, then Joe is using his resources in a much less effective way, and right now continuing to focus on clearing.
Yeah, again there, like, we have 5 resources left. I probably would have just played the Beast out. At this point, yeah, it'll feel good if you can get the item, but it would feel better if you could just win the game.
Yeah. I think that's something we can universally agree on.
What's the best way to win the game? You just win the game.
Win the game!
You don't need to get value off the card if you just win the game.
Yeah. Establish victory.
It's just the truth. Like, sometimes, like even right now, like if my Beast was out, I still have 3 more lore. I get to go to 17, and I'm like, I'm right there at any point now.
Well, that to me is one of the beautiful things about Lorcana, because you have the aspect of trying to have board control and, outpacing your opponent there, but also the decision of when to quest, since you don't win unless you're actually questing and getting lore and building towards that 20.
Now, like, this is the opposite of earlier. We just got to see a 1 cost get rid of a 9 cost. It's not nearly as animated, though.
I honestly, I'm more lukewarm.
I'm not even certain I would have made that play. I think I might have just took the lore. But what did we get back here? What did Hades get back? I believe there's a Surfer in there. If I was Hades, I would have been picking up Surfers for sure.
Yeah, I'm so curious as to where Antonio is going to be focusing, what he decides to bring back from that discard, because
I didn't see.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. And right now, as far as the state, when you have Beast and Hades down, you're threatening 3 lore, but you're still 6 away, so you're still kind of trying to build back up.
Right, so we can go to 17 this turn. I don't think there's any cards in Joe's hand, so that You Were Forgotten Me just got straight Inkwelled. That's a good find. Like, the Beast is fine here. It's the best card, so you're going to take it anyway now. It just gets rid of the shield, which takes away any protection that he thought he had. It also, now he can't quest next turn and run into a guy. So it's still good, but it still also just pressures the game, because now we just get to remove a card and go to 17 lore. If there's any other card in his hand, this is not where we don't need to be making these trades. We need to be gaining lore and winning the game. Like, the best way to win the game is to win the game, and when you're this far ahead, that trade doesn't make any sense. Even if you wanted to loop, I think you're too stuck in the loop at that point.
I agree, and I think that Antonio was going towards that focus on questing until the challenges were coming in from Joe, and then maybe feels this pressure to answer. Oh, he's clearing everything that I have. I'm attempting to build up my board. The more that I leave on the opponent's ends, the higher chance that they just remove before I can really close out on this. But if you're not questing at all, you're not even giving the opportunity to really close that gap.
Yeah, and I think that's the bigger problem there is I don't think he even quested last turn.
I don't believe so.
No.
16.
Okay, he did. He did. So went to 16. But right now, you're only at 19. Where if you had just quested last turn, you would be at 20.
Yeah.
You just gave your opponent another turn. There was just no reason to.
One lore away. There you go.
Yeah, like I said, that early grab your sword turn, the game. There were so many things.